So this was about midnight when we were sailing to the dock, and for me, I just wanted to get on the bus and get on the plane and get home. Emotionally, I had nothing left. You know, we got on the bus, we got on the plane, we came home, and then in quarantine in Melbourne, I was sent a video, which was done by somebody in Uruguay, filming the whole escort to the plane, and it had music attached to it. And for the first time, I could realise that actually what was happening was there was a celebration going on of our solidarity as people, of our humanity, and the kindness that the government and the people of Uruguay had shown us. And it was very emotional for me to, even now when I watch that video, I can't control myself. It's very moving.
Steve Timmerman es uno de los pasajeros del Greg Mortimer. Junto a su esposa no solían hacer viajes en crucero, pero esta vez querían hacer algo distinto. Nunca imaginaron que ese viaje se convertiría en una pesadilla.
But we are both not really cruise people. We're not really interested in going on big cruises. We like to plan our own trips and not be too dependent on one particular thing. But I was after a bit of an adventure, and I've always been inspired by Shackleton, his story, and my plan was to do the Alpine Traverse of South Georgia as part of what this trip offered.
En pocos días, el coronavirus se expandió por el mundo. Con el cierre de fronteras en varios países, el crucero no pudo continuar su recorrido.
We were made aware that borders were being closed. I think Argentina had closed its border. So the cruise operator decided to cut short the trip and head to the Falkland Islands because we're also aware that international flights were becoming very difficult to secure. So plans were made to get a repatriation flight from Stanley to Santiago and then home. And on the way to the Falklands, one passenger became ill with a fever. So the authorities in the Falklands then said, well, you have to quarantine for 10 days offshore. And I think at that stage, the cruise operator felt that, well, in the interest of the health of anyone who might get ill and supplying the ship, it would be better to go to Montevideo. On the way to Montevideo, there were a number of other people who came down with fever. So by the time we got to Anchorage off Montevideo on the 27th of March, there was no COVID infection confirmed, but because the number of people with fever was a little bit growing, I guess we were concerned that something sinister might be going on. Yeah. Before we knew it was a COVID issue on the ship, we really just thought we were a logistics problem, you know, to get us off the ship and out. And at that stage, we weren't that concerned that we wouldn't get help. I guess the level of concern really went through the roof when COVID was confirmed on the ship. And then suddenly we've gone from being a logistics problem to, you know, we're a health risk. And from the 1st of April, when we were aware there was one COVID positive test, to I think the 3rd or the 4th of April, when suddenly it was over 50, and then it became 60% of the ship. You know, the situation just exploded for all of us. And I guess our concerns and anxieties grew with that.
El 31 de marzo, un pasajero tuvo que bajar del barco y ser internado. Su estado de salud era muy delicado. La situación en el Greg Mortimer se hacía insostenible. Casi todos los pasajeros y tripulantes tenían síntomas. El 8 de abril, un equipo de médicos uruguayos ingresó al crucero para ver cómo estaban de salud. Steve y su esposa estaban en uno de los camarotes cuando los médicos uruguayos subieron al barco.
And we were very grateful at that stage that we had medical support from Uruguay. There were still some challenges around how we would actually disembark. But at that point, at least we thought, well, if somebody gets really sick, they're going to be looked after. And I think the medical ship had to come I think 3 times to evacuate people who were ill. A supply ship came along on the 8th of April, and it actually came on the starboard side of the ship where my cabin was. So I was actually out on the balcony with my mask on, and the ship was right next to me, and there was a young lady there with the suit and everything, but I could see her. So I yelled out, "I love Uruguay because you guys are being so kind to us." And she just looked at me with kindness in her eyes, and then she climbed down the ship, and the ships were moving like this in the sea, and also banging together. And then she had to jump into our ship, and my heart was in my mouth. I was watching I have photos looking at what was going on. I didn't know what her job was.
Okay.
But anyway, after I got back to Melbourne, I got a WhatsApp message. I didn't know who this was. And she explained she was the lady doctor, and that her mum had read my letter to her through her tears. So obviously it had been in the news, and the lady doctor said that we were heroes. And I said, sorry, I saw a hero jumping into the ship. I'm not a hero.
Finalmente, el 10 de abril, un corredor humanitario habilitó a 112 pasajeros australianos y neozelandeses a volver a sus países. Otro grupo de 15 turistas fue evacuado días más tarde en un segundo vuelo sanitario. Parte de la tripulación aún permanece en el barco en la bahía de Montevideo, y un ciudadano filipino que trabajaba en el crucero falleció por COVID-19.
When we landed in Melbourne, there was applause on the plane, but I looked at another passenger and she was very quiet, just sobbing to herself. So it was quite individual, the relief. But for all of us, we've become a bit of a family. Now, one crew member has lost his life. There are still crew on the ship, and there are still passengers who are ill in the hospital in Montevideo. So our hope is that everyone who can get home to their loved ones as soon as possible. We are thinking of all of them. The pain is still there, and some of us, our part of us is still left in Uruguay.
Steve envió una carta al canciller Talvi agradeciendo el gesto del gobierno, de esa doctora y del pueblo uruguayo, y prometió volver.
I said in the letter, I'm coming to Uruguay to look you in the eyes, in the person, to say thank you. I'll have to wait until the football comes back. So that was my kind of metaphor for, when maybe we can come together as people again.
Y claro, cuando salimos del puerto nos habían puesto un puentecito para subir y bueno, no había problema ninguno, todo estaba bien. Cuando me acerco a la parte donde vamos a cruzar me doy cuenta que no había puentecito ninguno. Entonces los muchachos, los compañeros de la Armada fueron espectaculares, se portaron re bien con nosotros. Nos empezaron a arrimar salvavidas. Y yo lo primero que pensé, dije, hay que tirarse al agua, pero fue un pensamiento sin razonamiento. O sea, dije, no nos habían dicho nada que teníamos que tirar al agua. Me quedé media expectante a ver qué nos iban a decir. Y le pregunto, ¿y el salvavidas para qué? Y dice, no, dice, porque tienen que saltar.